Hello friends, so this is the corset mock-up that I have made, and I find it completely wearable, so I'll keep doing that until I find the material I want to make the good one out of, and also buy another bust, I guess. So I was practicing some flossing because these bones won't just stay in place if I ask them to, especially this one that twists around the side of my body. So I just decided I would do kind of a sampler of flossing patterns to see what I like, and I'd like to show you how I did them on the other side. So I am using 2 strands of DMC that has been accidentally dyed by being in contact with something. I don't much mind. This is a sampler. And I'm gonna have my thimble. So this is the simple one, which is I'm starting just off to the center of the top, and then I'm going to find my bone edge along there. And this one kind of has a basket weave pattern. So I'll come up the side where I just was, and then down, finding the edge of my bones. And now I want to go the other direction, so I'll come up to the other side of my starting position and go down on the other side. And if I care to be accurate about it, I can measure or eyeball if I don't mind too much, because this is a practice piece, and I just don't mind too much. There we are. And so the difference between this one and the one that I did first and have sort of corrected with a satin stitch overlay is that I'm doing twice on this, and that gives me a little bit more on the back to stabilize. Whereas a lot of my embroidery is surface stitch embroidery and is meant to not use very much thread. Kind of the purpose of this type of embroidery is to use thread, because thread is cheaper than fabric historically. So as you use the extra thread to strengthen your materials, and some more thread use is actually better here. Again, because this is my practice piece, I don't mind too much if my stitches aren't perfectly accurate. That's fine. I'll trim away the little bits later. But you can see that I'm just going to either side, stitching down one and two. And so for me, for the bones that get a lot of use, or that push up a lot more, this closer together pattern of stitching was way more useful than the ones that have a little bit more of a spread. And the ones that spread a bit more are fine if the bones aren't trying to escape nearly so much. There we are. A lot of flossing patterns that I found are for cane bones, which you can pierce. These are steel bones. I'm certainly not able to pierce them without using a drill, and I'm not going to. So I'm not going to do the piercing patterns. I could then do some surface work on top of this if I wanted, but for this one, this little sort of fish shape is just fine for me. I'll tie it off, move to the next one. All right, this next one is done sort of the opposite way, and I didn't expect to find it so charming, but I really do. It starts in the upper corner, and then I come down, find the edge of my bone on the other side. If I'm not perfectly accurate here, it's okay. Okay. And then come up on the other corner, cross over to the other side of the bone. You can see how with these you can also direct where the boning channels are if they're not super tight. So then I come up just beside my first one, moving towards the inside along the top, and then down, moving down along the opposite edge of the bone. So basically I'm doing a series of X's that are getting progressively narrower at the top. And then I have a center spot left. And if I can actually get the center, there we go. Up in and down, come up in the same center, up and down. So let's tie this off. I'll get a new piece of thread. Next one. All right, this one's going to go on over top of the busk, so it's a little bit of a wider stance here. And I'm working like the last one, except opposite again. So this is some combination of the first two, where I want a shallow angle for my first one. So again, most of these I'm working across, and this one I want to do a double again. So nice and close, 2 bars. And then opposite sides, starting from the center. Find the other side. Real trick is working through many layers of fabric and not hitting the bone, because the fabric will resist me and I can push through it. The bone will resist me and I cannot push through it. Okay, so I've done my little V here, coming up back onto my first side again, so a little further over and quite a bit further down. Let's get a different angle. So I like this one. It looks a little bit like a little sunburst. Again, I could do some surface embroidery here. I did think about giving it sort of a single line downward, but didn't feel like it right now. This is a nice simple one that's going to be a little tricky for me because you will notice I've already laced this thing, so I got to avoid the ribbons. And also, I didn't cut my bones quite short enough here, so I don't have a lot of extra room to work with. But we're just going to do satin stitch in a single direction. So starting just a little bit off from the middle. And kind of just wrapping around. So this is just a simple satin stitch where we've come around the top of the bone and then down one side of it, so just a diagonal. I saw these more on period examples of bones that were moving diagonally, as well as in sets of narrower bones. This corset is a little bit of a later style and uses steel bones, which are quite sturdy, so I don't need as many of them. So I only have 8, including the busk, I think. You'd think I would have thought to count that first. Anyway, so let's move on. This next one is my personal favorite, but it takes a lot of thread and a long time, so I won't keep you with me the whole time. We'll do some jumps. But we're going to start just off the center. Just like pretty much all of them have started so far. And then other side. Find the other edge. And now, trying to be relatively tidy, keep my threads relatively close. I'm going to keep doing this for a while. All right, this is where we stop doing up and down work, and we're going to need to hook a little bit because it's just on the surface. So I'm going to move this around quite a bit. I'm going to come down to just past my center line and then come up to my standard starting points on the edge. And then same thing here, just past my center line, come up, and I have quite a shallow angle here. I think the other side I made it a little bit steeper. But you can see how this lets me continue my pattern. Of overlapping without worrying about bringing it out to the other side. So I think I'm done here, but I'm going to create a little knot here. So here, and yeah, just one. Okay, so I'll come up to just to the side, down here, and then I'm going to go down a little ways. And then come up. I want to go through this little knot, so now I'm going to pull it tight. Create a little stem, and then create some shaft of this feather. Ouch. And I have a little feather. What's next? This time let's try a slightly different version of a feather. Maybe we'll make it a bit more open. So, slight variation to my other feather. It's a little bit more feathery, and then I've just given it a little bit of a floof on the bottom. What next? The last one, I realized that most of these I was just practicing variations, so I want to try to make a fox face, but upside down. Alright, let's see about maybe making whiskers. Well, it's not unlike a fox. Worth a try. But it does bring to mind that you can do different patterns on the top and bottom based on the direction of them. So if something has more of a curved top, then it would be really easy to make that pattern on the top. Whereas if you want to happen on the bottom, like floral patterns, then on the bottom might be better. As for me, I really like the feather patterns, so I'll probably keep doing those. Thank you, friends. Happy stitching.